This year, if we truly want to get debt collections removed from our credit reports for good, we've got to learn how to fight back. And that does mean understanding a few things: why we target debt collectors instead of just the credit bureaus, and understanding some basic laws that are meant to protect us from unscrupulous debt collection practices. Trust me, once you see how often these collectors break the rules, you will be ready to hold them accountable, protect your financial future, and gain some peace of mind. By the way, if you want a step by step guide to the strategies that I'm about to share, check out my Ultimate Debt Defense Kit linked in the comments below and in the description of this video. It is jam packed with ready to use templates, legal references, and step by step instructions on how to tackle debt collectors who are coming after you for collections, for charge offs. I've even thrown in late payments and more. Now, a lot of people ask, why not just dispute the negative account with the credit bureaus and be done with it? Here's the issue: debt collectors hold your balance. So even if a negative account gets removed from your credit report, as long as you still owe a balance, the collector can re-report that debt at any time. Collectors often wait until you're applying for something crucial, like a car loan or a mortgage, or they see you cleaning up your credit in anticipation of getting ready to apply for some major line of credit. That's when they like to pop back up, sabotaging your fresh start. Now, the debt can also be transferred or sold to a new debt collector who can then list it as a new account. Worst of all, you can be sued over that balance. And if you ignore the lawsuit, that oftentimes leads to wage garnishment. So, targeting the credit bureaus alone doesn't solve the root problem. That's why we have to go after the debt collectors and hold them accountable under federal laws like the FDCPA. This so that we can get the debt handled permanently, not just wiped from our credit reports temporarily. So, under the federal law, there are strict guidelines that debt collectors have to abide by. And we're going to talk about these laws under the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, the FDCPA. If they violate these laws, you can file complaints, you can sue, and you can get these negative accounts removed from your credit report. Now, I'm going to give you a ton of detail information in this video, including some of the exact laws that they violate most often. And remember, everything I'm about to share is already outlined in my Ultimate Debt Defense Kit. No, I'm not an attorney. I don't make any guarantees. I'm simply sharing with you what I have learned from attorneys as a credit repair specialist and what has worked for me. So let's start with some of the basics. The Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, or FDCPA, is found at 15 U.S.C. 1692, and it sets boundaries on what debt collectors can and can't do. One, no harassment. That's under 15 U.S.C. 1692D. They can't harass you. They can't use obscene language. They can't threaten violence. No false or misleading statements under 15 U.S.C. 1692E. They cannot lie about how much you owe or pretend to be government officials. Communication limits, that it's under 15 U.S.C. 1692C. They cannot call you at crazy hours, like before 8 a.m. or after 9 p.m. your time. And they cannot call you at work if you say it's not allowed. Then there's validation of debts, 15 U.S.C. 1692G. Within 5 days of initially contacting you, they must send a written notice about the debt and your right to dispute or request validation. There are so many more laws that these debt collectors violate, and if they do, you have the power to push back. So let me share an example. A student of mine, Sarah, started getting calls from a debt collector who insisted she owed $3,500 on a charged off credit card. They called her nonstop, threatening to garnish her wages, and they even claimed that they would send someone to her job. Totally illegal. So Sarah wrote a validation letter demanding proof of the alleged debt and proof that the debt collector actually owned the debt and had the right to collect on the debt. The debt collector kept calling her anyway without ever sending any requested documentation. So not only is that harassment, but it's a violation of her rights to request and receive validation. And then blowing up her phone, well, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau's Regulation F implements the FDCPA, and that limits a debt collector to 7 calls in 7 consecutive days regarding the same debt. So, armed with all of this evidence, call logs, voicemails. She wrote a demand letter to the debt collector and the CFPB. She included proof of these violations in her letter, and she requested that the debt be permanently deleted off of her credit report, or else she would take action, legal action. Facing potential legal action, the collector backed off completely. They not only stopped contacting her, but they permanently deleted the account from her report. They waived her balance, so she owed nothing. Now, she probably could have demanded a cool $4,000 or so, but at the end of the day, she just wanted the permanent deletion and the debt waiver. Now, that's the power of knowing your rights. Now, let's talk about that validation letter. I like to call it a request for information letter. So, after the collector's notice to you, you can request things like proof that you're the actual debtor, itemization statements showing how they got the total they claim you owe, and chain of ownership. If the debt was transferred or sold multiple times, and that really is requesting that they prove that they actually own your account, your specific debt. Now, here's one little catch. The FDCPA itself doesn't specify every single document a collector must provide. However, courts generally agree that they must at least confirm the current creditor and the amount claimed. Some collectors provide more detailed documentation like statements and contracts, but legally they are required to send some form of verification before they continue collecting or collection attempts. And if they keep harassing you, that is a potential violation. Collectors cannot keep demanding payment if you have formally disputed or asked for validation. They have to put collection efforts on pause until they provide something. So in Sarah's case, the collector blatantly broke this rule along with others, and that led to her being able to stack these violations and put them in her complaint and a potential lawsuit. So, step two in your arsenal, filing a complaint with the CFPB. This is a great option if a collector ignores your validation request entirely, keeps calling or sending letters without verifying the debt, and if they threaten you or use illegal tactics. So you can head over to the CFPB website, the consumerfinance.gov/complaint to start the process. You can outline specific laws you believe they violated, like 1692D for harassment or 1692G for ignoring your validation letter. The CFPB takes these complaints seriously, and debt collectors hate that kind of attention. Oftentimes, they would rather resolve your issue or correct the credit reporting than face a CFPB investigation. Now, if you really want to see collectors scramble, you can consider taking them to court, small claims court, or your state court. Filing a lawsuit can seem scary, but here is why it is effective. Discovery. You can demand every relevant document, the contract, the billing history, the chain of title if a debt has been sold off. Burden of proof. If they don't have the evidence to show you owe what they claim or that they actually have the right to collect, you can show that they have violated your rights and they're in trouble. Negotiation power. Most debt collectors would rather settle, sometimes removing the debt from your credit report, lowering the balance, or waiving the balance altogether, versus them having to pay attorneys and court costs to fight a losing battle. Under 15 U.S.C. 1692K, if a collector is found liable for violating the FDCPA, they may have to pay statutory damages, actual damages, and attorney fees if you've hired one. Let me explain the damages that you could potentially recover. There's actual damages. So these are the losses tied directly to the debt collector's misconduct. For example, out-of-pocket expenses, higher interest rates on loans that were caused by an unjust negative mark, or emotional distress such as anxiety or depression from all the harassing calls or threats. Then there's statutory damages. So many consumer protection laws, including the FDCPA, allow you to recover a preset amount for each violation, even if you do not have proof of actual financial harm. These damages serve as a penalty to the collector and can range from a few $100s to a legally defined maximum. Then there's attorney fees. If you successfully sue a debt collector for violations, the court may order them to pay your legal fees and other costs. This ensures that consumers can afford quality representation when faced with abusive collection tactics. Now, there's a big incentive for them to settle quickly, and this information is included in my Ultimate Debt Defense Kit. Now, let's say a debt buyer claims you owe $2,000 on a credit card that was sold 3 times. So, after your debt validation request, they respond with a single page, like your name, an account number, the amount owed, no breakdown of fees, no nothing. You then send them a follow up letter. Again, all of these templates are in my kit, stating that they have not fully complied with your request and you believe they're violating the law by not providing adequate proof. If they still continue to press you, you can file a CFPB complaint, you can send them a demand letter, and you can prepare a lawsuit. In over 90% of these cases, once they realize you know some laws and you have documentation to prove their violations, they're going to most likely reach out to you to negotiate or dismiss that debt. It is usually not worth their time nor the legal fees to fight a case that they're not going to win. So, why does this all matter? Because your credit report is on the line, and so is your peace of mind. If you let a collector break the rules, whether it's by harassing you, inflating your balance, refusing to validate the debt, they can easily win by default. But when you know some of these basic laws and what to look out for, you can stand your ground. So, here's a quick recap. 1. Collectors must follow the FDCPA. 2. Validation letters or requests for information letters can help them, it can actually force them to show actual proof. 3. CFPB complaints can help escalate things fast and prompt some speedy resolutions. 4. Sending a demand letter and then, if need be, filing a lawsuit flips the script, giving you powerful discovery rights and negotiation leverage. If you want to make this process easier, grab my Ultimate Debt Defense Kit. It's got everything we just talked about: the FDCPA sections, letter templates, step by step instructions, guides on how to build a strong case, stack those violations if debt collectors cross the line. It's a small investment now that can not only save you thousands in unfair charges, plus the headache of dealing with these bullies, but it can potentially put money in your pocket if you catch a dishonest debt collector. So hit like if you found this helpful, subscribe for more content on fighting debt collectors, and then let me know in the comments if you've caught a collector violating these rules. Thanks for watching, and just remember, knowing your rights is key to protecting your credit and your financial future.